We got Chris Broussard with us now. Broussard, how worried should Nets fans be with Durant's lingering hamstring injury?
I think worried is too strong. Two more appropriate words for me are, one, surprised. Remember, when he got injured in mid-February, it was like he'll be out at least 2 games. So we're thinking, okay, this is nothing big. Now it's going to be 10, maybe 11, maybe 12. Who knows? So I'm surprised at this. The good news is that doctors are saying that it's not related to the Achilles. You know, I'm not a doctor. I'll just take their word for it. But that's good news if that indeed is true. The second word is concerned. And it's not just the injury, or it's not even so much the injury to Durant. I'm concerned because at some point, they got to get their big three on the court together. You know, what they're trying to do is already fairly unprecedented. You know, bring 3 superstars together and drop them into a lineup, and they win a championship right away. We saw Miami's big three couldn't do that. Remember, I mean, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain couldn't do that. Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon couldn't do that. And now they're going to do it playing just a handful of games. They got 35 games left. I would love to see them play 25 to 30 of them with their big three together. Now, I get it and I agree. Kevin Durant, more than any other superstar, can fit seamlessly into a lineup because of the nature of his game. Doesn't over-dribble, great jump shooter. Even his personality, he should be able to fit in. However, it's still an adjustment. And the role players have to adjust to having another superstar on the floor. Defensively, what's it going to look like? We already know that's a concern for this team. So that's my concern. Like, it's hard to imagine them playing 15, 20 games together as a big three and going into the playoffs and just running through everybody and winning the championship. I'm not saying it's impossible because they look fantastic, but it's hard to fathom and, again, wholly unprecedented.
Well, and listen, they also need KD to be full go on both ends. He's their most important defensive player, and he has now played 20 games of basketball in 674 days. And so now we saw him when he started this season playing almost as well as he had at any point in his career, but it still is concerning. But yeah, like, I'm going to describe a team to you. This team was put together over the summer. Their second best player has a spotty, at best, postseason resume. They lack any form of rim protection. And their starting 5 has no minutes together to speak of. Who am I describing? Well, it's this year's Nets and last year's Clippers. And eventually, America's going to understand that what happened to last year's Clippers is the path the Nets are barreling towards. Now, not necessarily blowing a 3-1 lead in the second round. I'm not assigning that to them. But where they were ordained championship favorites without us ever getting to see these guys play together. That is very concerning. And so I do think that it is something that has to be discussed as a giant, not just a, well, let's monitor it, but something that has to start being factored into championship odds and start being factored into how good you think this team will become the postseason. Because, Wilds, maybe you disagree. If Durant's out, I don't think they can get out of round 2. But even with Durant, if they've played 12 games together, then I don't know if you can expect them to have the cohesiveness and continuity it's going to take to beat Milwaukee and Philly in consecutive series, much less beat the Lakers in the finals.
Okay, so if Steve Nash came out today, Broussard, and said, you know what, we're going to shut down KD for the entire rest of the season. It's an imaginary world now. We're going to see him in the playoffs. I wouldn't be that worried about it for the reasons that you talked about it. A, his demeanor kind of fits in with like, all right, I'll do what I need to do. 2, his game sort of works with that. 3, he's a basketball savant. He can watch the games, and I think there's more chemistry there from him watching and playing with those guys before. He's played with Kyrie enough, buddies with Kyrie, and he played with James Harden in Oklahoma City. So I'm not as worried. I don't think it's a fair comparison to say, like, this is like the Clippers, when Kawhi and Paul George never had a history of friendship or playing together. So I'm not nearly as worried as everybody else.
Yeah, I would be incredibly concerned. I would be worried if that was the point, if he can't play the rest of the season. Because, look, Milwaukee, we like to write them off because of what's happened in the last two postseasons, but they're not going to be easy. They're not just going to run through the Bucks. And Philadelphia, the same thing.
True.
So these are world-class teams that they're going against. I just have never seen it. Nobody's ever seen it, Wilds. Like, to drop they would have had 7 games together. And you're right. I said it. Durant fits in great, but that's unimaginable that a team could play 7 games together and win a championship. Because that's what it's about. It's not about getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not about even getting to the finals, especially now you bring in a Blake Griffin. It's about winning a championship. And so, yeah, I would think they couldn't win it if Durant's out the rest of the season.
Couple things. One is, I keep hearing the Lakers, it was the perfect storm for them when actually they were the team most disadvantaged by the bubble. They lost all their home games. They had to play a red-hot Portland team in round 1 that otherwise wouldn't have made the playoffs. But that's neither here nor there either. The one time we have seen a big three microwave together and win a title was the 08 Celtics. And what did that 08 Celtics team do? I think they started 24-3. That's people can fact check me on that. I remember they started red hot. They were awesome from the word go. They had a ton of games together that season, and it helped carry them to a title. But the other problem with Wild's hypothetical, whether it's Kevin Durant is out another few weeks or he's out another couple months and then is back for the playoffs, it's not how Durant fits in with Harden and Kyrie. It's how, and you know this for every champion ever, you need some moments from role players. And Bruce Brown or TLC or the Claxton kid or wherever they fit in Blake Griffin, those guys will be finding out what their roles are.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.